say, bro? It's the podcast.
What's up? It's Hot Boy Troy. We got Cuddy, and this is the Say Bruh Podcast, Episode 8. And today we have two special guests in the house. We have Kirk from Root, and we have Sam from FTK. Welcome, fellas.
Thank you.
Welcome, guys. We finally got you guys in the studio to speak on something that you guys been cooking up, right?
Yeah. We've been working on a podcast. We recorded it over here about a week ago.
We do. Yeah.
About a week ago.
Yeah, it's all good about a week ago. And we planning on dropping it on Thursday.
August 1st. Yeah.
Ooh,
It will be on Spotify. iTunes might not be hitting like that. That might be a little later.
We'll make sure we get it up and running soon for those iTunes, Apple listeners. But yeah, man. I mean, I had the privilege to listen to you guys speak, and I'm excited. I'm excited for people to listen to this, and I know there's people out there, some of our listeners that are waiting on it. So
what's the name of the podcast? Because we mentioned it, but we have
it is called Close-Minded.
Close-Minded. And how did the name and the concept come out?
I've wanted to do a podcast about streetwear, clothes, sort of men's fashion for a while, and so I always had the concept of Close-Minded as being sort of an FTK podcast. And when I started really thinking about it, I was like, you know what, I don't want to just be some grumpy old dude that's ranting about how people didn't appreciate the FTK vintage section, and I kind of wanted to just bring in someone that would sort of help balance it out. Kirk has a lot more experience than I do in the world of fabrication and design from a brand end, and also he's just a nicer person than I am. So it's a good equilibrium.
So it's really gonna balance it out.
Yeah, it's a good way to balance
kind of like this apple juice and
Henny and apple juice, the yin, the yin and yang.
With all due respect. Yeah,
Well,
man.
Give us a little bit about your background, Kirk. He's giving you all these praises and everything, so we need to know.
No, that means a lot. Sam hit me up a few months ago, I guess, asking if I wanted to be a part of a podcast, thinking, being invited to be on an episode, or maybe it was an episode for the Say Bro, and I was like, yeah, dude, I'll do an episode. He's like, no, man, like, you're gonna co-host with me. And I was like, oh, fuck, like, all right, cool. Like, I wasn't thinking about that.
Did you feel the pressure, or?
I felt a lot of pressure. Yeah, I mean, obviously Sam has been very influential in the Central Valley as far as fashion and streetwear, and definitely very opinionated. So you gotta.
But I mean, also, it just helps grow the broadness of topics for the show. Kurt has a lot of industry knowledge, and I know that that's something that could be extremely beneficial to young people that are interested in getting in the industry. I mean, there's a lot of people that have left Fresno, left the Valley, and are making major moves in the global fashion industry. So Kurt has just a wealth of knowledge in that realm. And then also, I mean, I think we had talked about just we're definitely going to go reference our careers in the fashion world, but we had planned to just have certain episodes dedicated to particular pieces, iconic pieces from men's fashion, and sort of also maybe do sort of like a cultural anthropology type of retrospective of the growth and evolution of, say, the T-shirt.
Yeah, I think that's what got me excited, or I was just excited and curious about it. Like when you guys first came out here to record, and you guys spoke on the Hanes T-shirt, and how it came about, and I believe it was like some dude with
the Navy invented it like in the early 1900s.
So just that alone, I was like, man, if that's where you're going, like I'd be excited. I would want to know how the New Era cap came about, how the windbreaker jacket started, and just those items. And there's gonna be a full-on episode dedicated to that. That's gonna be fun.
And it just sort of broadens the topic whenever. I can obviously talk about, like, if we were to talk about Ben Davis, for example, I could probably talk about the impact on streetwear, and you could talk about the impact in workwear. And
the workwear started as workwear, and it brought it out to the streets, and that's where the balance is going to come about.
Definitely. And like I said, Kurt will be a nice guy.
I'll try to play nice.
Yeah.
So when did you get into fashion? At what point did you know that, like, man, I think this could be a career of mine?
I mean, I think growing up, I was always interested in fashion. And then even when I went off to college, I went down to down south to Long Beach State, and at that point, fashion really wasn't, in my mind. I was thinking I was gonna be an art student, and then started doing graphic design, and then started working for a skateboard company, just doing their color separations, taking their files and just setting them up for printing jobs, and just got interested in the printing side of things. And then so then I switched over to printmaking. So I ended up getting like a fine arts degree in printmaking. My first job out of college just happened to be with a clothing company, just doing graphic design for them. And at that point, I wasn't like trying to get into the fashion industry. It was like I kind of
trying to get a job.
Yeah, I was trying to get a job. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And luckily, I had a buddy of mine that was working for this clothing brand, and he got me in the door and got me an interview and got me in. So that was kind of what sparked it, and definitely like just kind of the interest definitely like grew from there and there. So.
Question on the color separation.
Yeah.
I've never done screen print or none of that, but
I work with
Sam-
him. I can definitely.
So for the listeners, I mean, I work with Sam, and
Bro.
he would give me a hard time about my colors on illustrations. I would use about 6-7 colors
So,
on
Kirk,
the logo.
You know this, like, I also used to screen print. Like, that's one of my first jobs.
But
And Dorian,
so that was always a thing. Like, man, Dorian with the
Cut
colors.
down some colors a little bit.
Yeah,
yeah,
and,
Dorian used like brown and tan. I'm like, bro, can you just like halftone this?
Half-tone that, yeah.
Like,
So and now I get it. Now that because before that it was just me working off Photoshop. So it's just me as an artist, and now I'm starting to understand after a couple of years. Like, okay, just tone it down, 3-4 colors max,
Yeah.
and so like you saying that right now is like, man, I'm sure it's a headache for you to separate colors and.
Yeah, I mean you get files from people and you're like, fuck this guy, man, fuck this company, like this guy doesn't know he's got some intern doing or
you
something.
have to have
but,
like one screen for just a little.
like a
blip of-
tiny little dot or
Yeah.
something, and bring it in a
And
color.
then me, like, I'll be like, man, they forgot the light brown or something.
yeah.
Oh, man.
That's awesome. I wrote down some questions for both of you guys, just because I want to know, and I know the people want to know. Back in the 90s, for the most part, what was the must thing to wear, whether it was jacket, brand-wise, or whatever the case? Because I knew what I grew up on in the South, but I'm just curious as far as, in y'all world.
For both of our worlds are probably a little different, right? Because we talked about in the first episode how we both had very similar early childhoods, right? We both like grew up on a ranch, we were around a lot of workwear, and then I moved to an inner city. I lived in Vallejo, California, West Side, and Kirk lived kind of in the Clovis area, right?
Yeah,
so we were
out in
around
the
sort of
country,
like automotive and things like that. So for me, now are you talking early 90s, mid 90s? Like, we're talking like cross color, Kanai era, Nautica, Hilfiger era.
I feel like this podcast, every episode, we always end up getting to 98, 99, and 2000.
That-
Somehow we always make it to that.
It happens.
And I know that's where Troy was going.
No, that's not where I was going. I did a little research, but I was just like in general.
So for me, right around that 98, 99, I had kind of already exhausted the Hilfiger, Nautica, stuff like that. Like the corny ravers were already wearing the Hilfiger at that point. Once they started making the Tommy Jean stuff, I was off that. And I've been going really hard in the Wu wear stuff. 555 Soul was like, if you could get like some 555 Soul back then, and I was actually like, I was still kind of like dabbling with Echo before they changed over to EC. Remember when it was still ECHO? And if you could find some Echo stuff, like you were up on game before they got the Levi's distribution deal. And then right around that time too was whenever I started getting like really into like raucous records, and I was like a little like kind of just backpacker wearing. I was still fucking with Jabos and Levi's and like just some Hilfiger jeans, but it was the 98s, Air Max 98s were popping. The New Balances, were the shit back then. Timbs were still the joint. And then it was always like, wearing like a hieroglyphics T-shirt, or like a Company Flow T-shirt, Fat Beats T-shirt, a Supreme T-shirt. Back then was like, I would say that like 98, 99 was like the golden era for Supreme.
Yeah.
That was when it was like, really like you were turning some heads, like for cats that knew. And like if you were wearing a Supreme shirt and like someone else like walked by and like you kind of like, okay,
You know.
yeah, they know.
What about you, Kirk? What was the brands or
The brands, for me, I think, another thing we talked about. Grew up the same era. I was more influenced, like more skate.
Yeah, you're
punk
way
scene.
more skate. Yeah.
But that's fashion. It's different.
It was
For
fast.
sure,
Yeah,
for sure. It's still the same. Yeah.
There was some crossover, but I mean, to be honest, like my extent of like hip hop early on was like Beastie Boys kind of,
Okay.
Yeah.
But obviously like the Vans, Dickies, Ben Davis was an influence once that started kind of getting into it. But I think the biggest brand that I've kind of always stuck towards and still to the day is like Stussy. That was a major influence growing up.
And so I'm not familiar with that. Is that like a skateboard brand?
It's more of a surf.
So
It started out,
So I think we had talked about talking about Stussy on one of our episodes.
Yeah.
Because there was a period right there in the in Living Color, Cross Colors,
Yeah,
maybe
that's
like 92, 93. I had a Stussy 8-ball shirt.
Yeah.
And then I remember like the bros just went super hard in the Stussy. And remember Massimo before it was in Target?
Yeah.
Like they were kind of on that. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe. So I kind of dipped off of the Stussy. But there was a period in my life when I had a Stussy 8-ball
Yeah.
shirt.
I felt like they
And-
always had like some cool designs, like the
Yeah.
8-ball and just the lettering logo.
Mhm.
I always thought that was cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
the
when
World
they came back with
Tribe.
the Stussy Tribe stuff.
Yeah. That's really what I think where I was more interested in the
tribal?
just like the script stuff and
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that.
And you know what? And I feel like the bros didn't like Bogart it too long. Like they kind of veered more into like the Quicksilver, Rusty type stuff, Hurley.
Right.
And then they kind of left Stussy alone, and Stussy kind of went more urban. If I'm right, don't you feel like they were a little more?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they started out definitely
so
as
to
a
speak?
surf because the
Yeah.
guy was a shaper. He shaped surfboards, and then they never really had like a surf team though. Essentially they kind of definitely went more street hip hop.
Yeah, because I remember they would carry that Union and at some of those like early streetwear boutiques.
Yeah.
Before we even called it streetwear, it was
Yeah.
just
Where
gear.
they at now? Like I feel like I don't know, like some of the artists like Dom Kennedy that I listen to, I feel like he rocks Stussy like a lot. So I don't know is that the lane that they're at right now? Just like more hip hop, or
Yeah, I mean, there's
is
still,
it just
they-
him? Just
I think they took a little loss for a while. I know the head guy Sean Stussy left, and then their creative director forever, Paul Middleman, left and like went to Adidas years ago. And so I think they did take a hit. And they tried to do like what was it, like a Stussy Purple or something like that, like a
Yeah.
higher end premium line.
And I feel like they're pushing a lot of stuff out of Japan too.
Yeah, I think they've always kept, like
'Cause they were
been
doing-
popular in Japan.
They were doing a lot of cross collabs with like those Japanese brands.
Neighborhood,
and
Fragment,
those-
all that. I think.
Yeah. So, and usually, I mean, the Japanese have a habit of selling our culture back to us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
they'll just touch it up,
Yep.
sew it a little different, ship it back.
Yep, or just put a different spin on it,
Yeah.
I guess. And so, and then right around that time too, when you were mentioning like the late '90s, that was whenever I first started really getting into Bathing Ape. Also, would have been right around the millennium time, So
that
before the Bapestas dropped, this was whenever it was just like the camo shit, and then so like when the Bapestas dropped, that would have been maybe like 2003, 2004. So right around that era.
Yo, whoever did whose company was the whole the monkey jeans and all that? I never seen some. I don't know. I feel like I would hear that
Drunken
shit on
Monkey?
songs.
No, that was one of those like
Oh, was that just-
mass-produced like
I
brands.
thought he was
right?
talking about Eviso jeans or whatever. You remember those?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of
Is
course.
Is that what it was? I feel like
I don't
I used to
know.
listen to that and I hear that in songs like Red Monkey Jeans or
Oh
something.
yeah, Red Monkey. Yeah,
that
yeah,
what it
yeah,
is?
yeah. Red Monkey was like
whose
another
brand
one of
was
those.
that? Or
I don't know who started that, but that was definitely around the time of the Avisu and
Yeah.
that would have been the.
That's when everyone was trying to get into denim. I think, like
Yeah.
higher end Japanese denim.
'cause
Yep,
that's
yep.
all they did, right? Like denim jeans
yeah,
or
yeah.
Super raw, heavy,
like
unwashed.
stiff.
Yeah.
jeans.
Yeah, everyone was doing that. There was that brand. Remember that brand, Schmack? It was just like the gaudy. It was super gaudy, like Japanese denim.
Okay.
But just with like loud sort of like pop art and like Liechtenstein, pow, like
Okay.
graphics on them. I was butchering really dope. You know, but
Shoot, you got a question?
Yeah, for sure. I got a few, but did culture play a factor through your teens as far as whether it was athletes, musicians, celebs, whatever? Like, what was basically the influencers basically, you know, getting you guys to buy, whether it's shoes, watches, belts? I'm even rocking a wallet chain right now because I had to pull it
because
out
Lil
the-
Wayne. Going back to Lil Wayne.
Belt game
who
banging,
influenced
wallet
you to do
chain
that?
swinging.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I mean, whoever want to jump on that question first?
Because we talk about this in the podcast also. We talk about some of our early influences, and I was living in more of a sort of an urban city, so I could never play basketball, but I was always around the basketball courts, and I would see, you know, the sportswear kind of that started in the sort of mid '80s. Also, like the D-boys were out there. You know, I remember the first time I saw this T-shirt was on a dude at the bus stop, and I was just sort of like mind blown. Like, what? Like, is that like they got Louis and Gucci and Fila on a Mickey Mouse shirt? And this would have been like 87, 88 that I saw this T-shirt, and I was just that sort of like instilled in me that you could print and create whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
But as far as influence goes, I think I mentioned on the podcast that I was like really influenced by Michael Bivins from New Edition.
Yeah.
I was at my homie's house next door. And, you know, like you always got a crush on the homie's older sister, and they were quite a bit older than us. So New Edition was like the Backstreet Boys of their day. And I heard the two girls talking, and they were one was like saying like, "Oh, Ronnie's so fine." And she's like, "Nah, girl, I fuck with Mike. Mike got those outfits, man. He's got style." And I was like thinking to myself, "Yeah, man, Mike does like he puts together those stories, yeah, like, you know." And so and even then when Belle Biv DeVoe went on, like I was like, "Damn, Mike was always the one right there." Like before the Fresh Prince Summertime video, like Michael Bivins was the one with the starter jersey suits, and he was really like bringing like the sports into the fashion and whatnot. Sort of right after that Dapper Dan Gucci era, he was.
That's what that reminds me of, like the
Yeah, this was more that era.
More that
this,
when
this predates the.
Lao and now, like when they would get their airbrush T-shirts and all that.
Yeah, the that would have been late '80s.
Late '80s.
So this is late '80s, and I'm talking Belle Biv DeVoe was early '90s.
Yeah.
So my older brother used to run with a lot of street dudes, and so he was growing up in the Troop, MCM, British Knights, Lottos, like that type of stuff, and he got locked up, and my stepmom was just going on this rant about all this, you know, stuff that he had bought with drug money, and she was boxing it all up, and she was just
Trying
gonna
to
put
give
it
it
out. She was gonna put it out on the curb to like throw
Damn.
away, and I just
Free for the public.
I grabbed it and threw it up in the rafters of the garage. So that actually started my vintage clothing collection, because I knew that was just sort of a time period, you know.
Another
that
man's trash is another man's treasure, right?
Yep, exactly. And that stuff was too big for me back then. Like I couldn't wear all these Diodora and Lecoq Sportif freaking sport, you know, sweatsuits. But when I got older, you know, I broke them out, and I just sort of have them as, you know, archival pieces. So.
What about you,
Kurt?
with the culture?
And
And
culture, I
that's
think-
fine. That's if it's skateboarding.
No,
or
and
whatever.
it wasn't so much skateboarding. I feel like the earliest was because my dad was into hot rods, and he had an auto body shop as a kid, so it was always going out to, like, you know, Kearney Park to hot rod shows and Selland Arena, and I think like the hot rod kind of style, leather jackets, and that was just like the so many styles within the auto industry exist, from like lowriders to just straight classic cars to hot rodders, and I think that was like the earliest kind of influences, and then later on, like, you know, MTV, the box, like the music videos that we had, like definitely kind of brought more of like a.
So did you ever get into like the whole sort of like grunge, like flannels, and remember when the flannels had the hoodies attached to them?
Yeah, I probably
Like,
had some of that.
yeah,
early
that sort of
on.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was definitely more my influence, was more the punk grunge kind of scene.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a deep culture in itself too.
Yeah. And then just, you know, the 90s that's, you know, it's all back these days. It's just like the flannels and the grunge and all that, and the streetwear side of it as well. So everything kind of recirculates.
I see like hip hop kids now like wearing Doc Martens, and that was completely on the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Like we were wearing Timbs, we were never wearing Doc Martens, but now you'll see like hip hop dudes
You see 'em,
flipping
yeah,
it.
like
you know,
all
so-
over, yeah.
Man, yesterday I was at in Long Beach for the Once Upon a Time in the LBC, and I seen like 3 pairs of Doc Martens out there.
Yeah.
The black ones, and then they had like some burgundy ones. I was like,
But you know,
I'm not. Yeah, I just was in a. I mean, I've seen them around just with a different crowd, but now you're starting to see it
yeah.
with hip hop or just
Well, the urban
kids,
crowd.
Yeah.
And you know what, man? Like honestly, like I was one thing too for this podcast having Kurt like on there to bounce me out. I don't want to be one of those dudes that's just on there like, yo, in the 90s we did it like this, because I mean in the 90s like we were clowning dudes who were wearing Teva looking sandals like this, and now like the twist of irony
It's a
is
style.
like I kind of I like it. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, I went from wearing some baggy ass jeans that covered my shoes to
yeah,
wearing more
we all
fitted.
did,
yeah,
brother.
straight up. Yeah,
So I mean,
always-
it goes all.
it always goes around.
Yeah,
Kurt, when on our podcast we had talked about, interestingly enough, one of both of our early pieces that like kind of influenced us was a leather jacket, and so I think that we had talked about doing a whole episode just about leather jackets, where Kurt can go more into like the sort of automotive, the biker and
Motorcycle,
motorcycle,
and even like military,
Yeah, where I-
Navy, all
and then I'll veer more into the like MCM, Pele, end
Thriller.
of it. So yeah, mine was,
I think Troy owned a Pele jacket.
I don't even
Did
know what that is.
Troy had one with zippers all over it.
Zippers all
on,
over.
on the mouth. Yo, man, what do you know about the Cameo, the lead singer of Cameo and his red leather codpiece? You know about that? Everyone Google that.
Behind the camera,
Google
he
that.
definitely knows about it.
Google that. The red leather codpiece. I want to see Master Chef Wu Tangzi in a red leather codpiece. That's gonna be the
gotta
next
find
move.
one.
A Supreme one. Supreme red leather codpiece.
And here I thought we were gonna make an episode without mentioning Master Chef's name.
Nope.
Shout out Master Chef. Yo, one of the questions I wanted to ask was, since both of you guys design and have been putting product out, what's the one? I'll start with Kirk. What's that one item that you feel as your that one iconic classic item that you created or that stood out?
like the graphic wise that we've done.
Or,
you think?
yeah,
or?
that got pressed up like that Holy Grail T-shirt, like
his Fresno tacos.
I feel like I'm
It's
hoping
probably
I'm
our-
hoping lowriders
Yeah.
jumps
Yeah.
over the taco, and I'll keep
Yeah.
going. But for a long period, it was like that's the guy that created the taco. Like, what's
Yeah.
what's
Mm-hmm.
yours?
I mean, we've done a couple pretty cool ones with the Grizz. The
Yeah.
hat was pretty
Yeah, that
dope. We
one was
did
dope.
that vintage kind of style hat. We did.
The Old English
Flannel.
F with the slashes.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
slashes, and it had like satin lined underlining bill and like the heavy wool.
Yeah.
That would, it was a limited release, but I mean, probably like our Valley Girl shirt.
I was just about to say that. That's your banger, man.
That's-
Like,
that's-
yeah, that's the
When
one.
I was asking the question, that's what I had in mind.
Right when he said that, I was like, it's gotta be
Yeah,
the Valley
and that
Girl.
one we ran that one pretty deep, and every time I print it, I'm like,
It
fuck
goes-
this thing.
I mean,
you know, I don't wanna print them anymore.
You're getting bootleg now,
Mixing
though,
the
right?
yeah, we did.
Man,
get
I seen a
some girl
black
knocked
one.
us
You guys
off,
never
yeah.
did black ones, did you?
We just came out with the black one.
Oh, that's what it was. I was
Only
about to
because
throw
it's
ketchup
got-
on them or something.
We got sick of printing the same one over and over, and every time we say like this is the last time
Just
we're
those
printing.
those colors, and even the cut of the T-shirt, the collar and everything is just it fits
Yeah, that's
right.
a shirt
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we have manufactured for our
Yeah.
shop down in LA, so it's all like a tubular construction,
Yeah.
so there's no side seam. So we found one of the last knitters like on the West Coast that does the tubular knitting, so
For sure.
and all the details, the stitch and everything are like kind of more of a vintage
Yeah.
detailing and fit and everything. And even when I was like sourcing that fabric for years ago, for our old company that we were involved with in LA, knitters were telling me like, oh son, like I won't even polish my shoes with that cotton. There's this new
Damn.
stuff
Yeah.
nowadays, and we didn't want that new thin stuff that everyone uses. We wanted a beefier cotton that
It's
just
just
wears
it's just
in
low.
nice and-
It just feels thick, or how could I say? You just feel like you're wearing a brand T-shirt.
yeah,
Like just
it's yeah, you're not wearing like a thin little tissue, that
exactly. Yeah.
you're showing your skin underneath.
I mean, plus the design, though. I mean, was that the first time you got bootlegged?
I think to a blatant like knockoff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were. It was just a few weeks ago that we got notice of it, and someone was asking like, where can I buy this shirt? And
You're like on the corner of Ashland and Peach or something.
I think someone was. I sent it to you. It was like Kingsburg or Visalia or something like that.
I mean,
it was just a colorway that
also it was
we
just
never
Sam.
printed.
Sam was the one that was printing them shirts. But
hey,
they claimed they only made one, and they saw it on Pinterest. They pulled it off Pinterest.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's
that's
unfortunate.
that's the
design
highest
is-
form of flattery.
Yeah, man. Just that design itself, I think is dope. With the colors of it and just the little bubbly font that you guys use is good. And I mean, every chick downtown and around the valley, like they have it, and it's like if it's that certain crowd, like it speaks for them. So that's
We're about to flip it on the Grizzly remix, though.
Yeah.
put that
about to,
G-Paw on that girl.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
We've talked about it.
Yeah.
I've had that file, and it wasn't me that bootleg that shirt.
yeah.
But I have that
No,
file
they
on my
admitted
computer.
they
So-
pulled it on Pinterest.
So Dorian doesn't like getting bootlegged. Me, like the first time I saw something get bootlegged, like I was like I called Jonas from LRG,
made it.
and I was like, bruh,
They bootleg my shit.
they bootlegged my shit. Like I was like, because I've been doing flips on stuff for years.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
like, I mean, I was
Sure.
like, yeah, that's if you're making something dope enough to get bootlegged, then you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we seen a few bootlegs of our taco stuff out in different restaurants around the valley and
It's all over the world, man. Like,
Sure, yeah.
yeah, true, yeah, because
Yeah.
I had some people send photos from like in the middle of the country, and it was like at first it made me feel some type of way, but then hearing Sam say what he just said right now, I was like, you know what, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean,
And,
if
plus,
you get mad about people stealing your ideas, you probably don't have that many of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean, fuck it, like we'll just bring them out with another
Yeah.
one.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah. You continue doing what you're doing.
No shortage of ideas.
Yeah.
I feel like what bothered me more was people sending to me like, well, not even bothering me. It was like, yo, I can't do nothing about it. You know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that got me the job. I'm cool.
Yeah,
with that.
I think the most annoying, and especially it's with Pinterest and Instagram and social media that
People feel like it's okay to just
like it's okay just to
copy and
nab,
paste.
exactly, just to steal things just so easily like that. I guess there's so much information constantly, in front of you,
Yeah.
and for someone just to be like, oh yeah, I'll just fucking take this.
I feel like we could do a whole episode on just that. But Sam, what would be your? I feel like I have like two different designs in mind, but what would be your iconic?
I mean, the one that I couldn't shake forever was the Kanye bear. Like
Yeah.
that was the one that everybody. But I recall the first time I saw someone with nickel 9 like tatted on him.
That's what I was gonna say.
I was looking at this dude. He came in the shop and he had it tatted on his neck, and I was just like staring at him. The dude turns around and just like looks at me like crazy, and I was like, I mean, I wasn't, I was just like kind of like, oh shit, So definitely the nickel 9 shirt was one of the first shirts that I did, and that's definitely the one that is the most.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, obviously we a lot of people know the Kanye bear, and that's the icon image itself, but for sure the nickel 9 shirt, and to me the in the know.
Oh yeah.
I
In
feel
the
like
know, in the know for sure.
That's an iconic one.
Yeah, man. I was literally telling someone the other day that I'd actually designed that T-shirt, and Diego he'll tell this story too. I designed the T-shirt, and then I showed it to Diego, and we happened to be in the studio with Heck. Shouts out to Aaron Hakamian.
What up, Heck?
And Heck had this beat, and I was like, "Yo, Diego, like you should do a song called In the Know."
Yeah.
And it would just add so much more value to this shirt. And
Yeah.
so Diego flipped the song like right there, and I was like, I'm gonna sell a shit ton of these shirts.
That's the first time I heard Diego Red off In the Know,
Yeah.
and I was living in here it was years ago. What year was that?
That would have been like 2004,
2004,
around
yeah.
the Kanye time, whatever.
I was living in Huron, and I remember listening to the Homegrown show. I want to say John Magic was hosting,
Mhm. or maybe Danny Salas.
or Danny Salas.
One of them. Yeah,
It was one of us around that time. It was a Homegrown show, and I was listening to it, and here comes Diego Red in the know.
Yeah.
And then he shouted out Chris Mead and C Street, and we have a Chris Mead in Huron, so like.
Oh
yo.
shit, you're hyped. Yeah.
So like that's dope, and just him himself feel like it's a dope
Yeah.
voice, dope lyrics and all that. And
And
later on, I came to see the T-shirt once I made my way out to Fresno and came around these events going on in Fresno, and I seen that shirt everywhere.
Yeah, that was. I think that's something that Kirk and I also have in common is it's little different markets, but we both try to create product that is representative of Fresno.
Yeah.
And the Kanye merchandise made us a lot of money, and it was something that was really dope and a great part of my life. But the stuff that I really feel passionate about is the stuff that I did for the Valley. So
for sure, no, that in that's what we like. That's why I enjoyed hearing you speak, because it's those gems like that I need to hear so that I could keep myself leveled and think that way when I'm designing. Because I mean, there is gonna be those designs that we do and they're gonna hit all over, but the ones that we do for here, I mean, we get to see the passion that the people feel when they're wearing it, because we're around them out here.
Yeah, and now I think that we see a lot more of the younger brands. Kirk, you do a lot of events with like some of the local brands like Culture Clothes and
yeah, we're doing a
coming up
Art
right?
Hop this Thursday,
This
August
Thursday.
1st. They're doing a new release with them, and we've done some stuff with EXP. It's a younger brand that he's down in LA now, working for a streetwear line. But I mean, his following just blows me away. The amount of like kids that follow him. I mean, he comes out, and we've done some of our quickest sellout events like of graphics, like getting his followers come down and doing a cross collab with him and blowing out stuff in like an hour that typically we haven't really done that in the shop by ourselves. So Sean's built a huge following for himself. So and the brand.
Local brands, other than us, that are doing stuff that represents the Valley, I guess. That's what I want to see more of. I want to see more of. That's how we build, a cohesive scene here. Is when you just unapologetically create designs and create images that are reflective of your environment. Yeah. So.
And we never set out to kind of be this, Fresno centric, but we did a couple, Fresno driven designs, and they just, as much as I think people like to kind of bash Fresno, there's a lot of supporters for it, equally. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you see it out there. I mean, just like all the brands that you mentioned right now, you see people just doing it. What's homeboy's name? Sorry for that's doing a thing with Daniel.
Kerry James,
James, like
James.
even with him, just in the past months, I've been
seeing
seeing
James
stuff
is
all
super
over.
talented.
With Care Studios.
Care Studios, there you go.
You see a lot of those, so a lot of support for that, and I feel like that particular style, the way that he flipped it, and then also the way that they flipped it for Daniel's book, like that's becoming like a recognizable.
And that you automatically think of his brand.
And that's what I would like to see more of that in the Valley. Just some things that just like you look at it and you're like, oh, that's some Fresno shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and it doesn't necessarily have to say Fresno, like so you
already know just by the style of the lettering or the way that they laid it out.
Yep.
All right. So speaking of brands, I definitely wrote down a few, and I just want a few words from each of you guys about the brands and how you feel about them, and this should be interesting. So I'm gonna start off with FUBU. Give me a 2 cents.
Oh, you just said a couple words, or
Just a couple words.
Okay, so
because I got a lot of them. A lot of them, so that's why.
So I'm not gonna lie, man. I purchased and wore a FUBU hat. The first time I went to New York, I saw Method Man.
right.
I saw Method Man wearing it in video, and I bought a FUBU hat, and then I was wearing it, and I started getting hella shit, for wearing it. And there was a period where I think I kind of had sort of a urban fashion sort of like backlash. I got to a point where I actually screen printed a T-shirt that said my other shirt is a FUBU, and I would wear that just sort of as like to be ironic. So now I still have a bunch like that I collect and archive stuff as part of the whole story. I have a lot of the FUBU jerseys and things, but the only piece I ever owned and wore myself was that one hat. Just had the FB on it, like the LL joint.
Yeah.
And
Man, I always thought that was a cool cool logo. I mean, I love lettering, so that was cool.
And then I thought it was like it was mind blowing to me that like LL snuck that into the Gap commercial, and then like literally said for us by us like in the Gap. Like I was like, wow, this is freaking crazy. Like
That's crazy.
So I respected the brand, but like I mentioned earlier in that the late '90s, whenever those urban fashion brands started really coming in. Was right around the time that I kind of veered left and kind of went into like a little underground like backpacker.
And that's when they all started showing up at like the Macy's. And
Exactly.
kind of those
Like
major
you had like
department
demo and stuff like that, and I was
Yeah.
just like, this stuff just looks ridiculous.
Right.
And you had guys like, at that point, you had what's the Malibu's most B-Rad like?
B-Rad.
You had like you had like those type of
I
like
feel like
looking
that
dudes.
killed it
and,
once
like,
they started
yeah.
doing like all the jerseys with the old English fonts.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
those might have been bootleg. I don't know, but you started seeing the FUBU with the old
Yeah.
English font, and I was like, yeah, this.
Yeah,
this
once
went
there was
downhill.
once they had like the Fat Albert on the jeans and like the
Yeah.
plat and stuff like that. Like
Wait,
I was
that was FUBU as well.
yeah, there wasn't the Fat Albert Platinum
Yeah.
FUBU. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, those were
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was,
By the way, I also said a few words. Seb just went crazy with it.
oh, sorry.
I
I'm
got-
sorry. I'm sorry,
I got,
man.
I
I'm
got
sorry,
a
man.
decent amount of
I'm
brands
sorry,
on
dude.
my list,
Sorry.
so that's why I'm saying that.
I can't go deep in food. I respect it as a brand. It wasn't something I ever really fucked with at all. So, but
I'm not surprised. Let's just.
It was yeah. I mean,
This guy's
I mean, it was a brand that said "for us, by us," so you know.
what they got to do with anything?
Reason why we didn't wear Tommy Hilfiger. But next on the list is Guess, and I'll start off with you.
Guess is another one. I didn't really, because for me, I mean, I grew up in Clovis, and so Guess was like a preppy brand. So it's
That
something
sounds right for Clovis, though.
It was right, but that
But
wasn't
he was
my,
trying. He was sort of a anti.
that wasn't
They-
really
they-
my
He was rebelling.
clique, I guess.
They gonna hate us now.
So
What about you, Sam?
So guess for me, I mean, I can definitely remember getting whipped in the face with a strap from my Guess overalls while doing the Running Man to Tony Feels Good.
Feels good.
And if you're wondering why it was whipping me in the face, because it wasn't strapped. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it wasn't
I-
strapped.
Matter of fact, you've seen that my 8th grade
Yeah.
high school. I mean, I'm literally wearing some Guess overalls in there. So yeah.
That's funny.
All right, let's go with the next brand, Reebok.
Come on, man. Don't kiss it.
You want to go on Reebok?
yeah, I mean, I was always Reebok Pump. I think that was like what really set it off as a brand back in the day. Was it the Shacks? Is that who did the pump or?
No. There was the first ones were it was just a pump.
Yeah.
And then the second ones were the D Browns.
D Brown. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
That I think what kind of put Reebok on my map at least. Was,
Yeah, I mean they the story with Reebok is they really like broke in when they were doing like the aerobics shoes in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then during the Hauser days, like they were just the classics, the running shoes. I almost got a pair of those, and I almost got a pair of pumps, and I've almost bought a pair of Reeboks a couple times, but I've never put my foot in a pair of Reeboks ever
I
in
can
my
say
life.
the same, my brother.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Because
man.
I always wanted the pair of soldiers and never got it.
But I own. So this is the crazy thing. I went back when I started getting real heavy in the shoe game. I bought a pair of the D Brown pumps, and I own a pair of the S Dots. Just because first time a rapper got a shoe,
Yeah.
I was like I had to buy them. So I own 2 pairs of Reeboks, but I've never put my feet in a pair of
Little
Reeboks at this
backstory:
point.
when I worked at Foot Locker, and Jay-Z was doing a concert in New Orleans, no lie, so many people just was like, "Yo, what up, S. Dot said?"
Yeah, man.
I'm like, bruh, these haven't been in stock for X amount of years. Like,
Oh, I thought you were talking about when they first dropped.
no.
Because I had a store then, and like people were just coming in, like when they dropped, people were going crazy for them. So
Gotcha. All right, let's go with the brand starter.
starter for me was like I was saying earlier, the whole Michael Bivins, just being around the ball courts and stuff like that. Like, I mean, I loved Starter. Like, Starter was probably one of the quintessential brands that really made me want to collect gear.
Yes, the starter was dope. I
Yeah, I
always,
could
always
see
liked
that.
their I always liked their football jerseys that were in the cut of a baseball jersey. Always.
Oh,
that was
the
dope.
pinstripe joints.
The pinstripe
So
ones.
for me, I guess the first ones would be the nylon coaches jackets.
The jackets were always mine, yeah.
And then you know what? It was crazy.
Pouch one that we saw the other day.
Yeah, the front-
side zip.
yeah,
little
side
anorak
zip.
style, yeah.
But before that, just the side zip parkas. That was what took it to the next for me. And then War Starter Heavy 88 to 92, and that was around the time I started getting really into like Kanai and cross color, and I actually started delving into like polo and stuff right around then. And then unfortunately, like during that whole urban brand era, starter got purchased by Nike, and they just used starter as a placeholder brand, and they just kind of threw it in they threw it into Walmart.
Damn.
So that they could have so they could have a Walmart brand.
Yeah.
And I mean, they just did starter dirty, in my opinion, like that. I mean, just talk about being freaking exiled someplace, So, but a few brands have done some cool starter collabs, like when the snapback shit was really popping, during the Wiz Khalifa era. I feel like Hundreds and a couple brands kind of brought back the snapback starter hats.
All right, I got another brand, Lugs.
Two Lugs?
Lugs wasn't my thing, no.
So a lot of my boys wore Lugs. They're more like kind of baller dudes, whatever.
Yeah.
They were the shoes that my boys that played ball wore when they weren't on the court.
Okay.
I used to write graffiti, so Lugs were a little heavy for me. And
You gotta have quick feet.
Yeah.
You gotta have quick feet, just
and
in case
they didn't have the durability of Tim's. So if I was gonna wear a boot, it was gonna be Tim's. I never got Lugs. I never. But I used to, I would see like Eric Sermon and like some of the dudes doing ads for them, and I was like, oh, okay. There were some clean ass fits. Like when you be flipping through like the source or rap pages.
Didn't like what is it? Funk Master Flex have like a Lug?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So.
That's fun.
What about all right? Y'all
Hold on. Sorry, are the Birdmans? Are those Lugs?
They're
It
Lugs.
was Lugs.
Yeah, so I have a pair of those. I have a pair of Lugs. I've never worn. I'm just part of the collection.
Hands like Birdman.
Yeah. Finished or we done?
What about LA Gear?
You have any? I had a pair of Street Hikers. I had a pair of LA Gear Street Hikers.
What I remember about LA Gear was it had some weird little like flare on the
Oh
side,
yeah,
right?
those ones, the little like ventilated joints on the
Something
side.
like that, yeah.
Yeah. So I never had those. My little brother did, but I had the Street Hikers, and the Street Hikers were clean. I don't know if you remember the Joe Montana, LA Gear Street Hikers. They're like they're a boot.
Yeah.
Troy, you had those Michael Jackson ones.
Maybe Hall, who's behind the camera.
Hall
he
did.
definitely
Did
had
you?
them.
Did
Shout
you
out
have those
Hall.
Michael Jackson LA Gears? Wow.
He's shaking his head. Yes, like Hall loves Michael
Yeah,
Jackson.
but I had
so-
the Street Hikers, and they had one of them had the little LA Gear license plate on it, and I have childhood memories of just like walking with that thing just flopping around, and
I seen one of the questions here that Troy had, and that could be the last question for this. He had a K-Swiss.
Oh,
we
boy.
wanna know.
Of course, I had to put that on there. We all know
man.
Sam loves K-Swiss, especially dude,
White
in
ones. White K-Swiss.
The
Oh,
white K-Swiss. Dude, in the South, during the school time, especially for like the little kids, when I worked at Foot Locker,
That was a go-to.
white and black K-Swiss was the thing to. I'm sure they still like fully in stock when school time starts. That's especially if they go to like a private school or whatever. That's what they're getting for their kids: white and black K-Swiss.
Never trust a man in white K-Swiss.
And then there's like the OG K-Swiss. And
Yeah.
just
You know
makes
what?
me
Well,
laugh.
those ones that were the K-Swiss that were coming out in 89, 90, before they started doing the full toe. The stripe. What is them like 6 or 7 stripes on those things?
Yeah.
that come down on the toe.
It's pretty crazy.
I mean, you always have that guy that dude that will like steal your wallet and help you look for it. Like
And
that
he wore
dude-
those?
that dude is always wearing some white K-Swiss and a Raiders jersey.
That's funny. Now back in here on like in middle school, I remember like a lot of the homies or like the hood dudes. It was either Chucks, Cortez, the Shaltos, Adidas, or K-Swiss.
Yep.
But a lot of it's crazy because a lot of the kids that had it's crazy to say, but like both parents and they had like a cool little job, like they would show up with K-Swiss. And
Yeah.
then me growing up, I always thought that K-Swiss was a little more upper brand because it was those kids that were wearing them. But
Not me.
Nah, I was
yeah,
like,
now I see.
yeah, because I'm like, man, like if you're gonna spend that money, just get some white ones,
Yeah, for sure.
And if you don't got the money, get the Cortez.
I was never able to wear them. Just they were too narrow, like and up front. Like man, my toes are ain't gonna fit here. What's up with these?
To me, they were always like that dude that just wasn't there, like he was almost,
No, I feel so. When I first heard you say that or do a post about it, like
yeah, man.
yeah, for sure.
Dude, LRG just did a collab with K-Swiss, and like everybody's tagging me in it because they know that like those are my partners, like,
Yeah.
like the LRG dudes, and I don't per se hate K-Swiss as a brand. It's just that shoe, that dude that wears them long ass plaid shorts. You know what I'm talking about? And he usually has like a lanyard, like keychain.
I want to school with
like,
them.
Yeah, you know that dude. You know that dude. And like he's that dude that's just like, you know,
sure.
you can't trust that guy.
All right, well, I'm gonna mention some influencers from back in the day that stood out for me, and I just want to once again give me a few words of what y'all think. I'm gonna start off with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith. Obviously during that show, tell me what you think.
Kirk, what was your Fresh Prince take? 'Cause he's more probably.
Definitely watched the show. I honestly,
His swag was like
he was
always
definitely
crazy.
Yeah,
he always had
definitely.
some good swag.
I mean, even before the show, like I would say, like the summertime video, for me, like definitely kind of. I mean, I know it's not cool to say that, like, you know, Will Smith freaking like really influenced you, but I went and got a Speed Racer T-shirt like from after watching the summertime video. I'm not gonna lie, like I was like, oh shit, like when he had that, you know, like in the back, I was always kind of like trying to pay attention to those little details.
Yeah.
And like Jazz had that like sauce ass like the starter.
Yeah, Jazz always had the
fit
good.
too. But yeah, then I'd say even in the show, like Will, there's like he was wearing some Carhartt stuff back then. I mean, he had some good fit, like solid fits on that
I
show.
remember seeing him when I think it might have been like a Christmas episode, he might have been rocking like some cross color, and he was all.
Oh, for sure. He was definitely wearing cross colors.
I always thought that was dope. It kind of looked like the like dude, a homeboy from Boys in the Hood when he's all
Q.
swayed out. Cute. Yeah.
I think that was a Z Cavarici shirt that he had with the little
Ooh,
pink
with
with
the
the polka
dot.
dot right there.
Yeah.
All right, I got another one. Let's go with Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell.
That's more Clovis. Right?
That's what
I thought. That's why I think of like Z Cavarucci and Guess when it comes
Yeah.
to that.
You know what's crazy though, because I noticed that in the Bay, man, the Filipinos went hard with the Z Cavarici. Like, and when everybody had mini trucks, remember that, and the beds that would spin.
Oh yeah.
And, like Z Cavarici was the
Pants
the
that were like
joint.
triple
Was it-
pleated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
triple
yeah,
pleated.
yeah.
and joint,
Wasn't
yeah.
Saved by the Bell supposed to be based out in the Bay, Seaside or something? Bayside.
I don't know. I always thought
Oh,
it was set
man.
in Clovis.
It was something with California. That's all I know. Hank 10, dude, like that. That's
To be honest with you, I never really watched Saved by the Bell. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
did. I loved it.
I know he had a big cell phone. That was about it.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Zach Morris.
All right, I got another one. Let's go with Tupac. And the thing that really jumps out to me was the red bandana with the Red Wings jersey. When he's basically, I think he's spitting somebody.
Yeah, spitting at the camera. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a big obsession with just Tupac's wardrobe in general. Like, I mean, I have the From Brenda's Got a Baby video, the UNLV starter, the beanie, the Morehouse sweater. When I worked with the Tupac estate when we did the Palamecca thing, and I was talking to his aunt about doing another one, I thought that I was going to have access to like the Tupac archive. So I was like, okay, where is the Duke jersey? Like, where is the little leather? Remember that thing you wear, that little
For the cover?
that little what was it? You know what I'm talking about? That little like I
That was
don't even
a-
know what that was, but look like a corset or something that
yeah.
he was wearing, right? Remember that?
Yeah, that was from the All Eyes on Me cover.
Yeah,
right?
the All Eyes on Me cover where he was wearing that little.
Yeah.
But no, I've been a collector for a while, so I have a lot of I have the Poetic Justice, freaking Ace starter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of have a thing for like collecting Tupac.
Yeah, and then I mean, Tupac had a good variety of styles. Like he could one day he could be in a baseball jersey and a hat to the back. The next day he's at the award show wearing
Versace shirt with
Versace and
with a hat like Troy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which
Shout out
Troy
to
got
Root.
at Root.
Shout out to Root. Let me just say that. Some other little notes that I wrote down, like watches, was a G-Shock at one point that was real big in New Orleans. I think my cousin still has like 50 of them things, but I mean,
Yeah, G-Shock for me was was huge, and then when they started doing all the loud colorways and whatnot, I was hella mad. Kurt, I don't know if you did you rock G-Shocks? Pretty tough.
When I was really younger, I
That's what I'm saying, like
definitely
it,
had
yeah.
more of the neons and stuff like that before I probably got to the era where I was more like kind of punk, skater influence, I guess, but
So
early years when I was rocking probably starter and all that, I definitely had a G-Shock for sure.
Yeah, so for me, I had a G-Shock right around the time when like everybody was wearing like the fake-ubs and the the big like blinged out watches. I was like, okay, I'm gonna curve left. I'm gonna wear like a like a rugged looking like G-Shock watch. And then once they started doing all the streetwear brands started doing collabs with them. LRG was the first streetwear brand to do a G-Shock. Remember they did that white one and it had like the little green accents and it was so clean. And then it just went crazy. Like once G-Shock ended up in like all of the finish lines. And
they did a couple of collabs. I know.
Yeah,
the
Mr.
one that stood
Cartoon
out,
had the one.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I was gonna say the blue one that Mr. Cartoon did with them.
Yeah.
Man,
And that
I was
was
trying to cop that one.
That was when it was
pretty
really
cool.
cracking, and I took my original one, my rugged, like,
Yeah.
just plain G-Shock, and I put it in a drawer, and I was like, okay, I'm going to wait 5 or 6, 7, 8 years for all
For it
these.
to die out?
Yeah, all these, kids to stop wearing it, and boom, once finally, like, cats stopped wearing G-Shocks, I go and pull out this drawer, and it's fucking dead.
Damn.
Yeah, of course.
It happens.
Yeah.
Some shoes that I wore back then and still wear now. Jordans, of course.
What numbers?
I got a few.
Okay.
3, 4, 5. That's all I care about.
Yep, 3 for 5.
Kohans, but the Kohans was the Kohans with the Nike edition, with the air bubble in the back. I wore those in high school, and then obviously the polo boots. That was a huge thing.
Polo duck boots?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I broke some of those out actually the other day for this commercial I was in for JSA.
actually,
And,
I did see that.
Yeah, I was wearing the polo duck boots, but they were like, "Can you make them look nerdier?" Because they have the wool wool line joints.
Wait, they told you to make them look nerdier?
Yeah, so they're
Yeah.
like, whatever,
Shout out to GSA.
Yeah, shout out to JSA.
Some other things that I wrote down, just like I say, from what I was wearing was Maurice Francis Jabot's, aka Jabot jeans,
Yep.
Rockaware jeans, and of course Levi's. I love my Levi's.
I was gonna ask when you're asking all these brands, I was gonna mention. I feel like you need to throw some Levi
So you know what? 'Cause Kurt knows so much more about Levi's than
denim
like
and all that.
any of us can really.
And I feel
love Levi's.
I had a I mean, just listen to people or like these different podcasts that I listen to. And there was this one episode on a podcast that I listened to. They were speaking on Levi's, and they were kind of like downplaying it. And to me, I was like,
What?
fuck, is it just like a California thing or what? Because I mean,
no way.
I feel like that's all I wear. I like Levi's, and I know it's a Frisco brand and
501s.
Kurt,
501s.
so I wish that I knew more. Like I aspire to know more about this type of stuff, just as someone that's into menswear. But Kurt was like schooling me on like the big E and the little E.
And when you guys
the
were
orange,
recording,
the orange
or
tag.
that might have been that might have been once the camera went off. But
Yeah.
You were speaking on that, like the big E, like
Yeah, I think like it was like pre-71. If you look at the tag, it was always spelt with like a capital letter. Like they call them big. If you went on eBay and just searched like Levi's Big E's, I mean, they'll thousands of dollars up there.
Yeah.
And then like once they moved production like overseas, wherever to Mexico or China or wherever, for whatever reason they changed. So it's all
The
lowercase
lowercase?
letters now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the orange tab were like 70s.
Yeah,
And
orange tag.
Yeah, and then
And then what was it where they had the leather tag, or it was leather and they shrank up and they kind of became like jerky?
most of the Levi's tags are paper, and then there was an era where they did like actual leather, and after washing the leather so many times, they look like a piece of jerky, so they're called like
Yeah.
jerky tags. So another thing, if you search like on eBay like Levi's jerky tags, I mean those are the ones that are super like sought after. Like Japanese guys will spend.
This is
lots
what's
of
going to
money
make
on
your guys' podcast just interesting. Just knowing those fun facts and stuff that we didn't like. We've seen, but we haven't we don't put like a thought to it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But Levi, I mean, nowadays there's so many levels. I mean, they like a lot of brands do. They have their premium line that they're sold at the LVC stores or whatnot, and then or Bloomingdale's or the high end stuff, and then they have they knock themselves off and almost like a B line, C line, and then they have the real cheap stuff at Kohl's. So I mean, you could buy a pair of 501s at Kohl's for $30 and a pair of 501s at some major at Barney's for $300. But it's like the premium. It's the same fit, but it's just gonna be like
Just
nicer
different
quality
fabric.
denim and materials and stuff.
Man, the 501s, like to me, like that just goes deep in the root. Like growing up, like with my older uncles and all them, it was always. I'm sure Sam, you've heard like the whole story. Like they would It was always a thing where I don't know if it was just a hood thing where we love to crease our jeans, right? And
My dad does too. As
Yeah.
well.
bro, but it was always like a joke, like man, I
always
Crease them so hard they could stand up by
I
themselves.
ironed them so hard to
Yeah.
where they could stand them up, and then like
Yeah.
as I got older, and then like now with the internet, like now you see photos of people actually like standing
Yeah.
their jeans up. It's like they were just so stiff, and you iron them, give them the little baby cuff and everything.
Shout out
and
to my pops because he would definitely.
I feel like Dorian can do that with some of his shirts sometimes, man.
Dude,
He irons the shit out of his shirts.
I iron my shirt so hard, like I'll cut you with my creases.
All right. Stop ironing your shirt so damn hard. Dorian.
Yeah, man.
Man, you got to, man.
Well, hold on. Before we take off, I got like one or two more things. Why people here, and when I say here, I'm talking Fresno, California. See, I wear a lot of jean shorts, right? They be Levi'd out. They be ripped up, but people here like,
Got them Daisy Dukes on or what?
No Daisy
Come
Dukes.
on, baby, kick them Daisy.
Little quick backstory, really quick, with me and Sam Hansen. I first moved up.
Oh, you're gonna scrape me like that?
Yeah,
You're gonna
yeah, I
scrape
am.
me
Wow.
like that?
I am.
I'm gonna let you step foot
gonna
in my
let
place and you gonna do it like this.
Oh, okay.
Here's a little backstory. Sam, I first moved to Fresno, California in 2011, right? And I had on some all-black polo boots, and we had went out, hit the town.
Yeah,
I think it was
yeah.
in Visalia, maybe Tulare or whatever. And then
I
spit-
said too, Larry.
you got the picture. But anyway, so met Sam in 2011. He took me out on the town, and we hit up the streets in Visalia and Tulare and whatnot. And then I just ended up crashing out because I had, a little bit too much to drink. So I'm like, yo, can you give a brother a pillow, a blanket or something? So he comes out with a sleeping bag, and I'm like, you know what? That's cool. It's my first time in a sleeping bag, sleeping inside.
How old were you?
I was 21, 22.
It's your first
But
time in a sleeping bag.
Yeah, we don't go camping in the South. All right, but anyway.
Okay.
I'm like, yo, I'm like in a full fit, so I'm like, yo, do you got some shorts or something? And he goes, yeah, I got some shorts, but yo, can I get a picture of you in these shorts? And I'm like, why? He was like, but wait, put your polo boots on.
Oh man, I brought him out some little Richard Simmons.
He brought out these Pistol Pete ass mini shorts, and I'm like, bruh.
They were like Jack Tripper from Three's Company. They were like, yeah.
Hey, you did it?
I took a picture, but I was like,
I mean, yeah, I took the picture. But
after seeing this guy's house, I was like,
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
but yeah, so
I took the picture.
if that picture is somewhere in the world or in the universe, I'm gonna need you to delete that.
Yo, Sam,
as
can
soon
we
as
get this
possible.
picture so we
we
could
get to the
use it as an icon for this?
Sam's gonna be like, see, Troy was ahead of the game back in 2011
no,
when
because they're
people
really
started
wearing
wearing
them
that.
those
But-
little shorts now too.
He was ahead of the game.
bruh, yeah, get rid of that picture. But the real question is why people here, especially like guys or females, how they look at guys.
I feel
why they don't wear,
like women give you more slack on that.
jean shorts. Like that was the thing to do in New Orleans. Like people still wear jean shorts over there. Oh shit! I look like Stone Cold Steve Austin, cranking two beers together.
Damn. I don't. You wear jean shorts?
I don't really wear shorts.
I was about to say I've never seen Sam wear shorts.
Yeah, I mean, Don don't wear shorts, man.
Oh.
That was my always
Yeah.
like you see like
You quote The Sopranos, Don
You're
don't
like-
wear shorts.
Mick Jagger, some like rock star kind of guy, and like you
Legs
never
be
see him.
sweating, that's why
you never
y'all
see him
don't
in
wear
shorts.
shorts.
You know, like that. I don't know, like see the
Yeah.
the dudes on motorcycles always get on a Harley and there's like leathered out or some black jeans or something. It's just like I don't know. I feel like I just don't rock shorts.
All
so
right,
often.
and that's fine. Okay, people here don't rock jean shorts. That's fine. But what about the jeans that are ripped up? Because I'm a fan of ripped up jeans. I like my cousin. Shout out to Nanny if she listening. She probably not. But anyway, give her some scissors. Give her a blade. She would cut up some jeans, throw them in the washer and dry, and they look like a beast. And I always like that was my style. Like I grew towards that. So, but people here like, damn, why you showing so much skin or whatever?
So much booty cheek.
Nah, not booty cheek.
Oh. Well, wait, I mean,
But yeah, so like I don't know, ripped up jeans.
me personally, like I will wear my jeans if they have a hole in them. Like I mean, like I like wearing them in, but like I earn the holes in my jeans. I don't put them in on purpose.
I get that. I'm just kind of the same way. I if I get a hole, I'm patching them or something, you know.
Yeah.
So
I don't.
show
I'm
skin.
like.
I mean, I understand.
No, I mean I'll rock the hole, but like I said, like I wanted to wear it myself. You know?
Start wearing some jean shorts, Fresno. I'm telling y'all be like, damn.
I think Troy just needed
Troy.
some clarity,
Yeah, I think Troy wants-
so people won't give him a hard time when.
Yeah, 'cause-
and what do they call him?
They call them jorts here. I'm
Jorts.
And you have like. Your
I got a few pair of jean shorts. They
Can you just-
Levi'd out though. Like
when holes in them.
they got some of them got holes, some of them don't. I mean, it just depends on the type of summer vibes I'm trying to feel.
Yeah, all right. So like, just let's promote this podcast though.
Sir.
So
Yeah, man.
so the Closed Minded coming up this week.
Oh, yeah, this Thursday we're gonna drop it, and I think that sort of we said that the
This
the
will be
description.
once a month.
I think that's
Yeah, we're gonna do it
for
once
now,
a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, and great way to describe it would be it's a podcast that is rooted in topics for the kids that care about what they wear.
Yep. Slogan.
Yeah.
There you go. No, that's cool, man. We're all excited, and we just posted on our IG, and we have some people just sliding in DM and commenting.
The feedback has been great.
The feedback's going good just off the post, and this is gonna be good. And
Well,
we'll be
thank
out
you
here
guys for
support-
having us.
Yeah,
man. I
thank you.
appreciate
Sure,
guys,
man.
you
And
know.
I know it's so as of now it's just audio, right?
Yeah.
But man,
I mean,
once you get to that point where we start doing some visual, I think that would be cool because you guys, it'll show what you guys are wearing and be able to do some different things for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can definitely like bring in some reference pieces and stuff. We
Yeah,
might
that'd
be
be
able to
cool.
just do that with JPEGs and stuff too.
Yeah,
like,
true,
right?
true.
Yeah. Flashing them through or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dope.
Well, thank y'all for coming through. But before y'all take off, we got a quote of the day, and obviously all I have is one quote.
For the podcast, we have the man where we stole this idea from.
We borrowed this idea from.
The best
I wouldn't say so.
ideas are meant to be.
Yeah, man.
meant to be
Yeah.
shared,
So, Sam, I'm gonna give you the option.
I want no, come on, man. I do this every day.
Yeah.
Kirk has to guess.
All right. So basically,
Who am I guessing? Who it's from?
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta guess who it's from.
You don't have to guess exactly who it's from, but
Whoever
whoever comes to
your
mind, or like a different cartoon character, whatever it might be.
It could be anything in the world, anybody in the world. But here's the quote. Read it and say it with your chest.
Say it with your chest.
The easiest thing to sell is the truth. I don't know. Immediately, I don't know why Sam Hansen. Is that from you?
No, it's not from Sam, but I'll give
Okay.
you another choice. It's from someone who has owned a brand that's been big. So let's see who else you might think. Putting
Bobby
that-
Hundreds. Everyone's reading his book
Bobby
right now.
Hundreds.
Is that from him?
Is that Ralph?
Yeah?
Shout out Bobby.
All right.
Is that Ralph, Troy?
No.
No?
that's
Mark
actually-
Echo.
No.
Goddamn, Troy.
It's actually Damon John. He said it.
Okay.
But yeah, thank y'all for coming out. Make sure y'all tune in.
That's it.
Thursday, August 1st.
August 1st. Make sure you lock in
Closed-minded.
Spotify.
On Spotify, and I'm sure they will be on much more soon. But this is the
Yeah,
Say
you
Bro
can-
podcast.
You can follow
Good
us
night.
on.
Follow the IG.
Yeah, it's
Give
a
it IG.
close-minded podcast.
Sorry, I got my spot too quick. Follow the IG, Closed Minded on
Close
on
Minded
IG,
Podcast.
Closed Mind Podcast on IG. Tune in Thursday, August 1st.
And this is the podcast within a podcast, and we're doing this. Yeah, man, we're looking forward to this.
Thank you, guys.
It's the Say Bro podcast. Good night.